Hello, everyone, and welcome as we celebrate Graphic Novels and Libraries Month to our webinar, A Novel Form, Graphic Novels Part 1. I am Ronny Khuri, Associate Editor, Books for Youth. And before we begin, I would like to go over some technical details. The audience is in listen-only mode, but we do welcome any questions you may have. On the bottom of your screen is a toolbar with a section for Q&A. If you have a question or need technical assistance, simply click Q&A and type your message into the box that appears. We will do our best to respond to all tech-related questions and will pass along all other questions to today's panelists so that they can follow up with you after the webinar. Links to today's slides were sent directly to you from Zoom at the start of the webinar, but you can also download them at any time by copying the URLs on this screen into your web browser. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive a follow-up email containing links to today's slide presentation, as well as a certificate of completion and video recording. And today we will have the pleasure of hearing from Amanda Livingston, Marketing Assistant at Simon Schuster, Jennifer Chan, Marketing Director at Fantagraphics Books, Emily Bodica, Director of Publisher Relations and Trade Marketing at Diamond Book Distributors, and Chloe Ramos, Book Market and Library Sales Manager at Image Comics. And first up, we'll hear from Amanda Livingston. Amanda is a marketing assistant on the education and library team at Simon & Schuster. She comes from a family of writers and teachers. After reading The School Story by Andrew Clements as a second grader, she knew that working with and in books would be her destiny. Her favorite books include Ida B. by Catherine Hannigan and The Princess Bride by William Goldman. She is a graduate of the NYU Publishing Digital and Print Media Master's Program and loves living in Brooklyn, New York. Thanks for being here, Amanda.
Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Livingston, and I'm on the Simon & Schuster Education and Library team. I'm excited to bring you graphic novels in the coming seasons that we're excited about and talk about why you should be excited about them too. Let's dive in. If you want to go to the next slide. First, we have the long-awaited Long Way Down graphic novel. Jason Reynolds' Newbery Honor, Prince Honor, and Coretta Scott King honor-winning #1 New York Times bestselling novel Long Way Down is now a gripping, galvanizing graphic novel with haunting artwork by Danica Novgorodov. Danica Novgorodov's watercolor art creates a hazy atmosphere that perfectly complements the text. Now, about the book. Will's older brother Sean has been shot dead. Will feels a sadness so great he can't explain it, but in his neighborhood there are the rules. #1, crying. Don't, no matter what. #2, snitching. Don't, no matter what. #3, revenge. Do, no matter what. But bullets miss. You can get the wrong guy, and there's always someone else who knows to follow the rules. Booklist calls it an intense snapshot of the chain reaction caused by pulling a trigger. A tour de force from a writer who continues to demonstrate his skill as an exceptionally perceptive chronicler of what it means to be a Black teen in America, said Publishers Weekly. We're so excited for this graphic novel, and we can't wait for you to get your hands on it. It's on sale October 13th. If you want to advance to the next slide. Next, we have Beetle and the Hollowbones, written and illustrated by Eliza Lane. This graphic novel with 4-star reviews is an enchanting, riotous, and playfully illustrated debut following a young goblin trying to save her best friend from the haunted mall. This one is perfect for fans of Steven Universe and Adventure Time. In the eerie town of Aloes, some people get to be magical sorceresses, while other people have their spirits trapped in the mall for all ghastly eternity. Then there's 12-year-old goblin witch Beetle, who's caught in between. She'd rather skip being homeschooled completely, and spend time with her best friend, Blob Ghost. But the mall is getting boring, and BG is cursed to haunt it, tethered there by some unseen force. And now Beetle's old best friend, Cat, is back in town for a sorcery apprenticeship with her Aunt Hollowbone. Cat is everything Beetle wants to be. Beautiful, cool, great at magic, and kind of famous online. Beetle's quickly being left in the dust. But Cat's mentor has set her own vile scheme in motion. If Blob Ghost doesn't escape the mall soon, their afterlife might be coming to a very sticky end. Now Beetle has less than a week to rescue her best ghost, encourage Cat to stand up for herself, and confront the magic she's been avoiding for far too long, and hopefully ride a broom without crashing. Beetle and the Hollowbones is for readers ages 8 through 12, and it's on sale August 4th. Next. Up next, we have Journey Under the Arctic by Fabian Cousteau and James O. Fraioli, with illustrations by Joe St. Pierre, the second in the Fabian Cousteau Expedition series. Dive into the world's coldest ocean in search of one of the rarest creatures on the planet in the second story in a series of graphic novel adventures. In this graphic novel, junior explorers Rocco and Olivia embark on an exciting journey into the frigid Arctic waters with famed explorer Fabian Cousteau and his research team. Together, they hope to find the rare Dumbo octopus and uncover how this exceptional creature is able to live in such an extreme climate. To get there, they'll board an icebreaker to travel to the Arctic Circle and will come face to face with polar bears, puffins, Arctic hares, and more. Then they'll climb into a submersible and dive deep under the surface to see whales, narwhals, and other incredible species only found in these mysterious depths. Join the team on this deep sea expedition and learn how the changing climate affects the ocean and its inhabitants, and discover what you can do to help save the planet. Journey Under the Arctic is for readers ages 8 through 12, is perfect for any ocean or science lover, and is on sale now. Next, we have Dork Diaries 15, Tales from a Not-So-Posh Paris Adventure. In the latest from Rachel Renee Russell, Nikki Maxwell deals with the trials and triumphs of middle school in the 15th installment of the #1 New York Times bestselling Dork Diaries series. This series follows Nikki Maxwell as she chronicles her life through text and art. Her move to a new school, her battles with Queen Bee Mackenzie, and her zany adventures with her BFFs Chloe and Zoe by her side. Rachel Renee Russell also recently started a Dork Diaries podcast, which can be found on her website. Dork Diaries is for readers ages 9 to 13 and is on sale October 13th. Next up, and on the adult graphic novel side, we have The Great Gatsby, the graphic novel. First published in 1925, The Great Gatsby has been acclaimed by generations of readers and is now reimagined in stunning graphic novel form. Jay Gatsby, Nick Carraway, Daisy Buchanan, and the rest of the cast are captured in vivid and evocative illustrations by artist Aya Morton. The iconic text has been artfully distilled by Fred Fordham, who also adapted the graphic novel edition of To Kill a Mockingbird. Blake Hazard, F. Scott Fitzgerald's great-granddaughter, contributes a personal introduction. This quintessential jazz-age tale stands as the supreme achievement of Fitzgerald's career and is a true classic of 20th century literature. The story of the mysteriously wealthy Gatsby and his love for the beautiful Daisy is exquisitely captured in this enchanting and unique edition. The Great Gatsby graphic novel is now on sale. And lastly, we have The Times I Knew I Was Gay, written and illustrated by Eleanor Cruz. This is a charming, highly relatable graphic memoir that follows one young woman's adventures in coming out and coming of age. Ellie always had questions about who she was and how she fit in. As a girl, she wore black, obsessed over Willow in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and found dating boys much more confusing than many of her friends did. As she grew older, so did her fears and a deep sense of unbelonging. From her first communion to her first girlfriend via a swath of self-denial, awkward encounters, and everyday courage, Ellie tells her story through gorgeous illustrations. A fresh and funny self-portrait of a young woman becoming herself. The Times I Knew I Was Gay reminds us that people sometimes come out not just once, but again and again. That identity is not necessarily about falling in love with others, but about coming to terms with oneself. Full of vitality and humor, it will ring true for anyone who has taken the time to discover who they truly are. This book is on sale October 6th. Next. And that's all we have. Please feel free to visit simonandschuster.net for more information and sign up for our monthly newsletters. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest, linked here in the presentation. And please feel free to visit the Book Pantry, where we have a graphic novel guide and other guides, author of the month features and recommendations, and more. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. And next, we will hear from Jennifer Chan. Jennifer began her career working in bookstores after graduating from Boston University in 1997. Following her passion as a consummate reader and a lover of art, comics, and graphic design, she moved into the publishing world in 2001 and has been working in trade sales and marketing for over 15 years. Jennifer is currently the Director of Marketing at Fantagraphics Books. Take it away, Jen.
Thanks so much, Ronnie. Hey, everyone. Thanks very much for listening in today. First up, I'm going to briefly run through our top 3 librarian titles for fall 2020. Aquatalantic is a new and original graphic novel fantasy from one of the great Italian comics masters, Giorgio Carpentieri, who was first published in the States in the pages of Raw magazine in the 1980s. Maids by Katie Skelly is the scandalous true crime story of the Papin sisters, who were convicted of murdering the family who they worked for. Mickey All-Stars is an original all-ages Disney book that's a fresh and funny take on classic Mickey. While at a carnival, Mickey enters a funhouse, and with each door he goes through is a different world and a different adventure. Each page features a different cartoonist, and each cartoonist creates their own storyline. While not part of our regular Disney archival series, the exquisite corpse-style story feels fun and contemporary, and it seems to riff on every well-known iteration of the mouse, as well as giving a few nods to genre comics. It's a great addition to any children's room collection. Up next, I will be highlighting some special sneak previews of our new Winter 2021 season. The year is 1964. Bobby Bailey doesn't realize he is about to fulfill his tragic destiny when he walks into a U.S. Army recruitment office to join up. It turns out that Bailey is the perfect candidate for a secret U.S. government experimental program, an unholy continuation of a genetics program that was discovered in Nazi Germany nearly 20 years earlier in the waning days of World War II. Bailey's only ally and protector, Sergeant McFarlane, intervenes, which sets off a chain of cascading events that spin out of everyone's control. As the titular monsters of the title multiply, becoming real and metaphorical, the story reaches its emotional and moral reckoning. Monsters is the legendary project Barry Windsor Smith has been working on for over 35 years, a 360-page tour de force of visual storytelling. Monsters' narrative canvas is both vast and deep, part familial drama, part espionage thriller, part metaphysical journey. It is an intimate portrait of individuals struggling to reclaim their lives and an epic political odyssey across 2 generations of American history. Trauma, fate, conscience, and redemption are just a few of the themes that intersect in the most ambitious graphic novel of Windsor Smith's career. Alex and Carol, friends since childhood, are now literal partners in crime. But the heist, to steal the painting, the Grand Odalisque, from the Louvre, is too much for the duo to handle. So they bring in Clarence, a bureaucrat's son with a price on his head, and more importantly, an arms dealer, and Sam, a stunt motorcyclist and boxer by trade, who proves trigger happy with tranquilizer darts. Using soda cans, smoke bombs, rocket launchers, and hang gliders, Alex, Carol, and Sam set off circumstances that result in a battle with the French Special Forces, and their partnership, which was on the rocks, will never be the same again. In this formally inventive graphic memoir, Shira Spector, whose drawing is visceral, symbolic, and naturalistic, paints a vivid portrait of the most eventful 10 years of her life, encompassing her tenacious struggle to get pregnant, the emotional turmoil of her father's cancer diagnosis and eventual death, and her recollections of past relationships with her parents and her partner. Set in a kaleidoscope of Montreal and Toronto, Red Rock Baby Candy begins in subtle tonal shades of black ink and introduces color slowly over the next 50 pages until it explodes into a glorious full color palette. The visual storytelling eschews traditional comics panels in favor of a series of unique page compositions that convey both a stream of consciousness and the tactile reality of life, both the subjective impressions of the author at each moment of the life she depicts, and the objective series of events that shape her narrative. Manny Murphy is a genderqueer Portland native. This work of graphic nonfiction, told in the style of an illustrated diary, begins as an affectionate reminiscence of the author's 1990s teenage infatuation with the late actor River Phoenix, but morphs into a remarkable, sprawling account of the city of Portland and state of Oregon's dark history of white nationalism. Murphy details the relationship between white supremacist Tom Metzger and the Rose City street kids like Ken Death that infiltrated Van Sant's films. Murphy brilliantly weaves 1990s alternative culture with 2 centuries of the Pacific Northwest's shameful history as a hotbed for white nationalism. In Murphy's personal reflections and in heart-racing descriptions of movie scenes, the artist's story becomes a moral anchor to a deeply amoral regional history and marks the incredible debut of a talented new voice to the graphic medium. This novel, set in 1963, follows the lives of writers, painters, musicians, sculptors, and performers as they wend their way through these hubs of creative life, seeking out inspiration and grappling with their craft. Argentine creators Diego Arandollo and Facundo Percio come together to celebrate a time in Argentine history when its art scene blossomed. Arandollo's staccato dialogue lends a poetic quality to these lively, often mysterious characters, while Percio's raw and expressive charcoal drawings perfectly capture the rough charm of this eclectic community of artists and the seedy, smoky locales they inhabit. The next 2 titles are our newest reprints of classic comic strips. Nuft and the Last Dragons Volume 1 is a collection by Freddie Milton. Milton is a Danish cartoonist and one of the top Disney artists in the world. These are funny animal comics in the spirit of Carl Barks and Don Rosa. The stories are poignant and a little slapstick, but Milton uses humor and the satire of the average family as a way to discuss societal issues. Nuft and his family are country dragons that move to the big city, and many of the adventures they get into address being a minority and issues of assimilation and dealing with authority. These were originally published in Europe. Each volume will feature 3 stories, and we plan to do at least 6 volumes in total. In this rip-roaring retrospective of the influential Mad Magazine cartoonist, Basil Wolverton's often warped imagination combines with his outlandishly wacky visual humor to fascinate and delight. This book collects the ultra-rare treasures Scoop Scuttle, Mystic Moot, Bing Bang Buster, and Jumpin' Jupiter as they've never been seen before. The last 3 titles I'm presenting are graphic novels geared for younger readers. First up is Nobody Likes You, Greta Grump. Greta is a handful until her pet turtle, Nobody, teaches her to soften her ways. The 2 team up with her new friend, Gabby, to discover why the kind-hearted people of Friendly Town have turned so mean. equal parts high-flying adventure and a deeply felt inquiry into the essential goodness of human nature. The book features tech whiz cats, honorary gopher librarians, and gangs of squirrels in matching sweater vests. Kathy Markazian is one of the best cartoonists we publish. We have done 4 books in total. Her last book was an adult graphic novel called Eartha in 2017. This is her first children's book. She is an animator by trade, and her stories take a very cinematic approach. All of her books contain stunning landscapes, beautiful depictions of nature, and there's a wonderful nuance to all of her characters too. The warm-hearted allegory of this graphic novel makes it perfectly calibrated to the present moment, when the need for us to look after one another is stronger than ever. Bolt City has a new protector in this exciting new middle grade graphic novel from cartoonist and musician Ben Sears. Young Shadow usually protects sci-fi Bolt City by making deliveries for the food bank and rescuing pets. But one night, he discovers the Sludge Team, a conspiracy composed of a CEO of a chemical plant, trust fund punks, and suspicious cops. To stop their evil plan, Young Shadow must don a couple of batons, knee pads, and a small black mask, and team up with Spiral Scratch, another benevolent protector in the fight, and also metal-clad nuns. Drawn in bold yellows and blacks, this is a socially conscious action-adventure superhero tale. Noel is a boy who is developmentally impaired. He had always lived with his mother in Berlin until one day tragedy strikes and he finds himself alone for the first time. A man with a beard tells him he can't stay in the apartment anymore and takes him to a place with so many strangers. Who can he trust? Who does he like? Who loves him? There's a real village in Germany called Neu-Erkerode that is operated by people with mental disabilities. The local restaurant, the local bar, the local supermarket. The author, Michael Ross, spent 2 years living 4 days a week there, researching and getting to know its townfolk. And the result is this empathetic YA graphic novel depiction, beautifully drawn and sensitively told entirely from a developmentally impaired boy's perspective. That's it for me. Thanks again to all who registered and for tuning in. All the titles in my presentation are available on Edelweiss. Please feel free to contact me if you want to join our catalog mail list or with any review copy requests or questions you may have. I also send out bi-monthly newsletters for both our adult and our children's titles, so please get in touch if you'd like to sign up. And be sure to check us out and follow us on social media as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jen. And our next presenter will be Emily Bodica. Emily is the Director of Publisher Relations and Trade Marketing with Diamond Book Distributors. She is a book industry veteran and has been with Diamond for over 12 years. She lives in Michigan with her husband and 2 cats, Chuck and Larry. Thanks for being here, Emily.
Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for joining us. Next slide, please. I just want to remind everybody that you can follow Diamond and Diamond Bookshelf on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can sign up for our monthly newsletters at the link provided. Next. My first title is from one of our newer publishers, A Wave Blue World, American Terrorist. How far should protesters go to make their case? Is the news media biased because of corporate ownership? What is the dividing line between civil liberties and keeping the country safe? Next. That's what the graphic novel from Wave Blue World tackles in American Terrorist. When 4 average citizens take extreme measures to disrupt a rigged and corrupt system. With a foreword from New York Times columnist George Gustine, American Terrorist is Homeland meets Bonnie and Clyde and is appropriate for teens ages 16 and up. Next. Also from A Wave Blue World, in this Star Trek meets Minority Report graphic novel anthology, all is not lost. All We Ever Wanted offers a shot of optimism in a time when it's so desperately needed. This anthology includes 24 stories that provide a roadmap toward a brighter future. Next. Will our salvation come from embracing technology or returning to nature? Is a new world just around the corner, or will it take an apocalyptic event to give us the opportunity to start over? These stories offer a futuristic, community-building, inclusive look at how we can make our world better. Featured in the New York Times as 24 short stories loaded with hope, All We Ever Wanted is intended for teens ages 13 and up. Next. Another title from A Wave Blue World, Phantom of the Opera. This is the first ever graphic adaptation of the original novel written by Gaston Leroux. Next. The spooky Gothic romance is retold by an artist who brings his European sensibility to this work. For fans of the original work and other classic graphic adaptations, this will appeal to readers ages 13 and up. Next. One of my favorites on our list, honestly, is The Old Geezers from Ablaze publisher. The Old Geezers is an adult graphic novel that tells the story of three septuagenarians who have been friends since childhood. They have each taken different paths in life, and the story moves back and forth between the 50s and present day, telling a sometimes tragic and sometimes comedic tale with all of its political, social, and cultural upheavals. Next. This is an international bestseller now translated to English. With its crisp dialogue, compelling characters, and exaggerated art to play up the characterization, this will appeal to fans of The Contract with God and Mouse, and is intended for readers ages 16 and up. Next. Wild Thing, or My Life as a Wolf, is the story of an affectionate and inquisitive Labrador named Silver who grew up on a sheep farm. But Silver dreams of adventure, and bored by the monotony of life, he stumbles across a pack of wolves, and attracted by their freedom and unhindered life, he decides to follow them. Along the way, he discovers love in the ravages of human civilization that is reducing the animal's ecosystem, threatening their very existence. Next. This is a beautiful tale told from the perspective of a loving dog that tells the story of adventure, love, and the brutal story of the effects humans are having on this planet and for the creatures that live on it. With crisp colors and stunning artwork, this will appeal to fans of Beasts of Burden and Mouse Guard. And this is intended for middle grade readers ages 9 to 12. Next. Also from Ablaze, we have Diary of a Nerd. This is the story of Phil, a 12-year-old boy living in Manhattan. He is smart, interesting, and a self-proclaimed nerd who believes in fantasy way too much. Phil likes spending time with his friends, the Geek Team, and is in love with his classmate Lauren, but Lauren has a boyfriend, Ted, who's a bully. One night, Darth Vader comes to Phil in a dream and gives him the courage to stand up for himself and hopefully win the affections of Lauren. Next. Diary of a Nerd is a hilarious book consisting of two different diaries written by Phil, one of a young genius and one of a boy and his quest for love. With a cult following around the world, Diary of a Nerd will soon be an animated series and has several spin-off books in the works. This will appeal to fans of Diary of a Wimpy Kid and Jedi Academy and is intended for middle grade readers 9 to 12. Next. From Aftershock Comics, Kill-A-Man. Kill-A-Man is an examination of an unlikely crossover, male queer culture and mixed martial arts. In the early days of mixed martial arts, kickboxer icon DJ Belly is beaten to death in the ring after yelling a homosexual slur at an opponent while his young son James watches in horror from the stands. 16 years later, James has become become an MMA star in his own right. But when James is outed as gay by an opponent in a press conference, he loses everything. To fight his way back, he turns to the only one left willing to train him, the man who killed his father. Next. The story has two main themes woven intricately throughout. The sport itself, extreme and hard to live within, and the bigotry and hatred of anything deemed not manly enough. This story illustrates the world at large and how underlying prejudices in society seep into everyday life. The plot is tightly written, the characters are believable and empathetic, and the artwork is brilliant, vibrant, intense, and powerful. On the surface, it may seem like just a sport comic, but underneath there is so much more. This will appeal to fans of Fence, Slam, and Muhammad Ali, and is intended for older teens ages 16 and up. Next. From Albatross Funny Books, we have Mega Ghost. Life can't get much weirder in the spooky city of Dunwich Heights. That is until junior occultist Martin Magus discovers a cursed ring that gives him the power to summon a trio of spirits to form Mega Ghost, a giant supernatural robot sworn to defend the world against creepy things that go smash in the night. And just in time, too, because a gang of juvenile delinquents are plotting the ultimate act of rebellion, raising a demon from the depths to wreak havoc on Dunwich Heights. Next. Mega Ghost is an action-packed, arcane adventure that mixes Saturday morning cartoon thrills with supernatural chills. This will appeal to fans of Goosebumps and Ghostopolis and is intended for kids ages 12 and up. Next. Next, from Magnetic Press, we have Mr. Invincible Local Hero. Mr. Invincible is the winner of the first annual Ragazzi Award at this year's Bologna Book Fair for Best Middle Grade Comic. It has also been given a starred review at Booklist and Kirkus. There's a new superhero in town, Mr. Invincible. Sure, he wears a mask and a cape and helps widows and orphans as any self-respecting hero would, but he also thwarts the mad scientists and bad guys with his amazing superpower that makes him the only true comic book hero. He can reach outside the comic strip panels to affect both space and time. Next. By breaking the boundaries of comic book physics, he and his companions are able to do amazing things that are only possible thanks to the magic of comics. A wholly unique and creative twist on conventional comic book reading experience that plays with the rules of sequential art. This middle grade title is told in comic strip style and is imaginative and laugh out loud funny. This will appeal to fans of Dogman, G-Man, and Mad Magazine and is intended for readers ages 9 to 12. Next. Irina Books 2 and 3. The Irina series tells the true story of Irina Senderlova, a social worker in the Warsaw Ghetto in the early 40s during the German occupation. She is credited for saving the lives of 2,500 Jewish children by smuggling them to safety in small groups. Next. While she was eventually arrested, imprisoned, and tortured for her actions, she refused to reveal her network and was condemned to death. Ultimately, the members of her organization rescued her and she was able to help reunite some of the children she smuggled out with their parents. Books 2 and 3 focus on Irina's activities post-incarceration and her years-long mission to locate and reunite the rescued children with their families. While the stories were often heartbreaking, given the fate of many of the Jewish parents, Irina made it her mission to help those orphaned find new homes. The inviting, cartoonish art style makes it easily approachable and digestible for middle grade readers and above. The Irina series is for fans of Persepolis, Mouse, and They Call Us Enemy, and is intended for middle grade readers ages 9 to 12. Next. From Magnetic Press, Pistuvi. Pistuvi is a magical and lyrical fable about the transition from childhood to the world of adults. Jean is a little girl who lives with Pistuvi, a young fox, in a charming little cabin at the top of a giant tree that is surrounded by prairie. An enormous tractor man crisscrosses these infinite spaces, mowing ceaselessly. The wind, which appears in the form of a magnificent woman with long wavy hair, responds by planting the seeds she keeps in her pouch, thus foiling the mower's aims. Next. It is in this numinous world that Jean and Pistovi learn more each day about identity and otherness, represented by a constant flock of babbling mockingbirds. Though at first they are inseparable, the two friends find their relationship fraying as Jean grows older and little Pistovi suffers from the pull of the birds. In this tale, evil is invisible but ever present, and the passage into the world of adulthood is tinged with a hint of disillusionment. The art style is endearing and told in stark, cinematic, manga-like panels. It will appeal to fans of The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, and is intended for teens ages 13 and up. Next. From Manga Classics, we have Anne of Green Gables. Manga Classics changes the way you read and experience the classics. This edition is the only authorized manga adaptation fully authorized by the Montgomery State. This edition, like all other Manga Classics, faithfully adapts the original story, keeping it 100% truthful to the author's vision. Next. This book, like all Manga Classics, comes in two formats, trade paper and paper overboard hardcover. This is appropriate for teens ages 13 and up. Next. And finally, from Bolt Comics, we have Dark One, Volume 1. This is the new modern dark fantasy graphic novel by Hugo Award-winning New York Times bestselling author Brandon Sanderson. Next. Paul is a young man who sees visions of strange and fantastic worlds, visions he initially believes are hallucinations. But these visions turn out to be prophecies, dark projections of a world in which Paul is a tyrant who destroys the world and the creatures that reside there. Dark One examines the dual roles we often take on in life, the ability to be a savior as well as a destroyer. This will appeal to fans of White Sand and the Mistborn series and is intended for older teens ages 16 and up. And that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emily. Our final presenter will be Chloe Ramos. Chloe is the book market and library sales manager at Image Comics, where she provides resources to librarians and educators looking to utilize comics in their institutions, not only as items to be acquired, but also as keys to facilitate increased patron engagement. Before joining the Image team, she worked at San Francisco Public Library for 7 years. Prior to SFPL, she worked in both corporate and academic libraries, including a very meaningful stint at the Diego Rivera Archives at the CCSF Rosenberg Library. In addition to her work, she is very passionate about being a Puerto Rican feminist art nerd. The floor is yours, Chloe.
Thank you so much, and thanks to everyone for joining us for a selection of some of our hottest upcoming titles. You can also find sample content on Edelweiss and free first issues on imagecomics.com. Now moving to our first slide, let's begin. Return to the enchanted world of Mar with author Brendan Fletcher and artist Carl Kerschel's ISOLA Volume 2. Queen Olwen and Captain Rook are beginning to unravel some of the mysteries behind the Queen's magical transformation and her connection to Isola, the land of the dead. But information comes at a price, and danger stalks them at every turn. Following a brush with death, Olwen and Rook are stranded far off course. Without supplies and desperate to return the Queen to her human form before war breaks out, they'll need the help of the strangers they encounter along the way. But telling friend from foe is not always easy, and the pair soon finds themselves in grave danger. This Eisner-nominated title is rated T+ for readers 16 and up, and is recommended for fans of The Last Unicorn and the work of Hayao Miyazaki. Moving on to Unprecedented. Taking aim at hypocrisy, greed, stupidity, and cultural chaos in the age of Trump, fan favorite comic book creator Kieran Dwyer brings you Unprecedented. This hardcover collection features a wide range of sharp-witted illustrations lampooning the bizarre course of American politics and culture since that fateful escalator ride of 2016. This collection is rated T+ for readers 16 and up and is perfect for fans of Meet the People, The Daily Show, and Hasan Minhaj's Patriot Act. Next up, Eisner-nominated Spawn series artist Jason Sean Alexander and Rodney Barnes, the writer behind such hit shows as Wu-Tang: An American Saga, Marvel's Runaways, and Star's American Gods, present Philadelphia Volume 1. This modern horror classic with a surprising link to our founding fathers tells the story of Jimmy Sangster, a small-town beat cop returning home to bury his murdered father, the revered Philadelphia detective James Sangster Sr. With no love lost between father and son, Jimmy is eager to close this chapter of his life and get out of Philly as fast as he can, but is instead drawn into a mystery that leads him down a path of horrors that will shake his beliefs to their core. The city that was once the symbol of liberty and freedom has fallen prey to corruption, poverty, unemployment, brutality, and a cult of vampires with a very surprising leader. Philadelphia is rated M for readers 18 and up and is perfect for fans of Lovecraft Country, Get Out, and the Black Monday Murders. It is currently being developed into a TV series by Levantine Films. What do you get when the industry's top award-winning talents team up? You get the show-stopping sci-fi series Undiscovered Country. Authors Scott Snyder and Charles Soule, in collaboration with artists Giuseppe Camuncoli, Danielle Orlandi, and Matt Wilson, have crafted an unstoppable juggernaut of a title that is as engaging as it is unpredictable, and takes readers on a journey into the unknown region that was once the United States of America. Having walled itself off from the rest of the world for well over a century, the first signs of life have emerged. A message claiming to have the cure for the global pandemic that is decimating the rest of the globe. A group of scientists, government officials, journalists, and military personnel must travel into the dark heart of this isolated nation, and what they find there is more bizarre than anything you can imagine. Undiscovered Country Volume 1 is rated M for readers 18 and up, and is perfect for fans of Mad Max: Fury Road, The Walking Dead, and Y: The Last Man. Currently being developed for the big screen by New Republic Pictures. Our next book is strictly for adults only, as I'm sure the title suggests. Renowned kink journalist Tina Horn has teamed up with a variety of talented artists on Safe Sex Volume 1, a story set in a world not so dissimilar from our own, where the moral majority has bureaucratized America's sex lives and criminalized any behavior viewed as deviant. In this repressed and regimented landscape, it will be up to a group of radical queer sex workers to fight the power and free the love. This book is rated M for readers 18 and up and is perfect for fans of Hustlers and Handmaid's Tale. Next up in our August releases, author Sean Kittleson and artist Eric Zawadzki bring you Heart Attack Volume 1. Science fiction meets teen romance in a world where experimental gene therapy has saved millions of Americans from the ravages of disease. Much to the government's distress, however, the gene therapy has had an unexpected side effect, creating people with superhuman abilities they've labeled variants. These variants are persecuted, denied their human rights, and relentlessly hunted. But rebellion is coming, and two variants, Charlie North and Jill Kearney, may be the key to that rebellion succeeding. This title is rated T+ for readers 16 and up, and is perfect for fans of the Uglies series and Divergent. Moving on, we have Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips at the peak of their game with Pulp, a standalone graphic novel that seamlessly blends the crime and Western genres. Set in 1930s New York, this timely tale follows a down-on-his-luck pulp writer struggling to make ends meet in the Great Depression. After a heart attack prompts him to dip his toes back into a life of crime, he finds himself partnering with an ex-Pinkerton agent to pull off an impossible heist against literal Nazis. As with Brubaker's other work, Pulp uses a thrilling premise to search deep into the heart of man. On a side note, for a great introduction to Brubaker's work, you can also check out his new title, Friday, on panelsyndicate.com. The book is offered on a pay-what-you-will model. This title is rated M for readers 18 and up and is perfect for fans of Dashiell Hammett and Inglourious Basterds. Moving on, and currently the preview is unavailable, so I apologize for that. Award-winning author Matt Fraction and fan favorite artist Kieran Dwyer's Last of the Independents is back in print with a brand new hardcover edition. This hard-boiled crime thriller follows a crew of thieves with nothing to lose and a chance to pull off their final heist, a job to end all jobs. When the robbery goes south, the group will have to outrun the mob, and there's only one way out. Last of the Independents is rated M for readers 18 and up and is perfect for fans of No Country for Old Men and Steve McQueen's The Getaway. Changing gears, for our September releases, author and artist duo Kat and Kit Seaton return to their Scottish fairy tale epic with Norroway Book 2. In this new chapter, 7 years have passed and our hero Sibylla must finally face her destiny. Having found safety and built a life for herself in the town of Fiskeby, she must now flee to Glass Mountain to escape an army of soldiers from the Troll Kingdom. But her bid for freedom lands her in a jail cell. Now she'll have to use all of her wits to escape execution, and as if that weren't enough, find a way to stop her amnesiac ex-fiancé from wedding the daughter of the Troll Queen and cursing the kingdom forever. Norroway is rated T for readers 13 and up and is perfect for fans of Fables and Ella Enchanted. Little Bird, The Fight for Elders' Hope is now available for the first time in paperback. Award-winning filmmaker Darcy Van Polgeest teams up with Angoulême-nominated artist Ian Bertram to bring you the highly acclaimed dystopian sci-fi Little Bird. With the same limitless scope as Star Wars and the socio-political explorations of A Handmaid's Tale, Little Bird tells the story of a young resistance fighter battling against an oppressive American empire while searching for her own identity in a world on fire. A gorgeously illustrated epic where one girl risks everything to save her people, their land, and the freedom they so desperately deserve. Little Bird is rated M for readers 18 and up and is recommended for fans of Saga, East of West, and Akira. Next up, author and artist David Lopez bring you the superhero teen action adventure BLACKHAND and IRONHEAD Volume 1. Alexia is on a mission to take up the mantle of her father's super-powered corporate empire and become one of the greatest superheroes of all time. Her plans are complicated when her father suddenly dies, and she's confronted with a barrage of well-kept family secrets and a villainous sister she never knew existed. Can the sisters work together to investigate their father's mysterious death, or will they destroy each other in the process? This title is rated T+ for reader 16 and up and is perfect for fans of She-Ra and the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Moving on to our penultimate title, from author and artist Nicolas Pétrimont, presenting the first in an epic trilogy that pays tribute to the action thrillers of the 80s and 90s. This breakneck narrative draws the reader into the fray from page 1 and never lets up. And who is the hero of this spectacular shoot-'em-up? Would you believe the world's best vacuum cleaner repairman? Well, neither would the country's most dangerous drug cartel. They've pegged him as the deadliest assassin in all of Mexico, a man with countless kills to his name, a man who betrayed the cartel before vanishing, a man the cartel will stop at nothing to eliminate. Is this a terrible case of mistaken identity, or is our hero not so hapless after all? There's never a dull moment when you're gunning for Ramirez. This book is rated M for readers 18 and up and will thrill fans of Tarantino's Pulp Fiction and Rodriguez's Mexico trilogy. And our final title is from New York Times bestselling author Johnny Christmas and visionary artist Jack T. Cole. This creative dream team has brought readers Tartarus, a multi-generational science fiction adventure for all ages. Set against a backdrop of intergalactic empire, a young cadet on her way to a prestigious career discovers she is the daughter of the most ruthless warlord ever to break out of the colony's inescapable prison pit. After being framed for crimes against the empire, Cadet Tilda must go on the run from the very forces she's dedicated her life to serving, and in the process of trying to clear her name, she'll discover conspiracies, dark secrets, and an awesome power that is hers to wield for justice or vengeance. This title is rated T for readers 13 and up and is perfect for fans of Saga, the works of Mobius, and Ridley Scott's Alien series. And that's it for me. Thanks again, everyone. And don't forget to contact us with any questions or information requests and email us to sign up for our library resources newsletter. Take care.
Thanks, Chloe. And another big thank you to all of our wonderful panelists. Tomorrow, all attendees will receive an email containing links to today's slide presentation, title list, certificate of completion, and video recording. For more about Booklist webinars, be sure to visit booklistonline.com/webinars, where you can view archives of past webinars and register for upcoming ones. Need more Read Graphic Recs? Keep an eye on this site for virtual author panels and more webinars focusing on upcoming graphic novels hitting the book scene this year. If you haven't already, please be sure to check out Booklist Reader, where Booklist contributors post daily about all things books and library land. Did you know Booklist content is freely available to all until August 31st? Start reading with our digital edition, a format that pairs the page-by-page reading experience of print with the convenience of online access at booklistonline.com. Interested in subscribing? Take advantage of this special webinar offer to get print, online, digital, and archive access to Booklist for only $99. Don't forget, Booklist's Guide to Graphic Novels and Libraries, a special supplemental issue featuring author interviews, extensive book recommendations, contributions from your fellow librarians, and more, is currently available for free on this site. Thank you again for joining us for today's webinar, and one more thank you to our sponsors, Simon & Schuster, Fantagraphics Books, Diamond Book Distributors, and Image Comics. This concludes today's webinar.